Be so for real with God. It's being content and satisfied even if God says no. It's so nuanced and it's so deep, and covenant is so holy. We have to die to our flesh every single day for him in order to even have this covenant. Like I said, I'm a newlywed and you're not in control. You ain't manifesting nothing. God's saying, nope, for me, by me, through me, to me. Hey, are you really gonna love that man for who he is and not just what he can do for you? Hey y'all, welcome back to another video here at Perfect God Pursuing Me. I'm your sis Yaz, and I'm so glad you're here. As usual, I got my Bible, I got my notebook. Okay, I've been in my quiet time with the Lord about this topic, and he just put this rush in my spirit, like, make the video, put it out. So let's get into it.
On the wrong path, Lord found me, had to reroute. Curses, shackles, bondage, Jesus' name, call it up and now. Up and now, up and now.
If you saw the title of this video, then you know that this is for the woman who is desiring to become a wife. And before I go any further, I just want to say I feel so grossly unqualified to make this video because, I mean, the Lord qualifies the call. So, like, let me stop capping. But when I think about giving advice on marriage and being a wife, I'm like, bro, like, I'm a newlywed. Like, why are you asking me? Like, people will really, like, my girls, women, like my young sisters in the spirit, you know what I mean, will be like asking me questions about like being married and being a wife. I'm just like, Titus 2 verses 3 through 5 say, likewise, the older women to be reverent in the way they live, not to be slanderers or addicted to much wine, but to teach what is good. Then they can urge the younger women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled, to be pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, and to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God. So when I think about it, I'm like, girl, like, ask the older women. Like, if I, you know what I mean, we're looking for advice, and do sometimes, I go to older women in the faith that have been married for like at least like a decade in the faith and have bumped their heads and have stumbled and have found Jesus in their closet and have, you know, reconciled with their husbands over years. Like, but at the same time, I can acknowledge that a lot of women these days are not in church or in their community chopping it up with older women. Like, I highly advise you to, but a lot of us aren't. We're scrolling on YouTube. So with that being said, God's like, just make the video. Like, stop this and just make the video. So here we are. Like I said, I've had some of my, you know, sisters in Christ have been speaking with me about, you know, marriage and wanting to be married, or like their ideas of what they want in a husband. I don't know, something about getting married, it just puts like a target or a magnet on you where everyone wants to give you their opinion about men, marriage, being a wife, and like without you asking. So this conversation has been coming up with me quite a bit, but I knew it was up when my husband, my sweet husband, he's been getting discipled by some amazing men of God these days, and that is like beyond my biggest prayer. And so he came home with some fire one day. Like, he just knocked my head off with this wisdom about marriage. And so I was marinating on that, and I was like in my word, and God like just put this download in me. So pretty much, like, my only advice, if you leave this video with nothing else, my only advice is, you know, we desire to be married, we're women, God, you know, he put us this desire to be a wife, and we want to be the Proverbs 31, and we want to submit to the man, have a kingdom marriage. Like, my kingdom marriage videos always go nuts on this channel. Like, I understand that's what the girlies want, okay, but it's like, it's so nuanced and it's so deep, and covenant is so holy. And I'm just, like I said, I'm a newlywed. I'm a young woman myself. I'm just getting the hang of this thing, okay? Go in your word, go to your elders. But if you ask me, the only advice I can give you is, yes, we desire to be wives, but if you only ever, the highest you got, the best you ever got from God was to just reach the bottom of his feet, would that be enough? Deuces, see you in the next video. God bless you. No, but for real though, and I'm saying that, and I'm coming from, let me just put some context on this thing. I was one of the biggest idolizers of marriage. Like ever since a little girl, like my parents were, they conceived me out of wedlock, and I begged my dad to marry my mom. Like I have always loved marriage down. So if I was like that as a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, can you imagine as a grown woman, full blown grown woman? Hot mess. Just want to be a wife so bad. You not even having discernment, thinking about who the husband gonna be. Like, and I thank God he protected me from that. But I see, and I know this is a hard topic, but like be real and examine your heart, and you can be mad at me on the other side of the screen, but take it to the Father in prayer. But like I see a lot of women that are in that same position I was. It's like you want to be married so bad. It's like you're projecting who your husband is onto whatever man's in front of you at the time. I did that for like 10 years. I was in a relationship for like 10 years and I was like, that's my husband. It's like, girl, no, he's not. Like, you're not married. You're never going to marry him, and he ain't never going to marry you. Just because you desire to be a husband and he's in your face, just because you desire to have a husband and this man's in your face, that doesn't mean 1 + 1 = 2. Like, we got to go to God about it. And I wish that, I mean, no, I can't even change it, because like God writes the best love stories, and just, I'm not even talking about in marriage, but like the love story of my life, of how much he loves me, that he gave me life and he continues to give me life, is like the best love story, and it's like such a banger. That's why I try to illustrate his beautiful signature on this channel. But it's like I did not understand. I had an idea of what marriage looked like from the world, from my family members who were married, but I didn't understand covenant. My church is like in a series, or it's the word of the year is covenant. So we're like breaking it down over this year of 2025, and you know, I'm submitted under the leadership of my church, and so God, in my private time, he's going to be speaking to me about covenant, because that's the train of thought we're all on in unison, right, as a church body. But it's like, when my husband was speaking to me the other day about it, he was talking about the context of a woman getting married and dying to herself and taking the husband's name. And that when you make that covenant, when you get married and you take that man's last name, like Yasmin Baxter died, Kenon Johnson died, and we became one. We became the Johnsons. But it's also, he was saying, it's actually not about the name. Like, yes, we became one. Yes, people know us as the Johnsons, but it's not about the name. We died to Christ. So we're one in Christ. So the only name y'all should be thinking about when you look at us is Jesus, because our covenant is literally under Jesus. Like, he can make me mad to the point where I want to give up on this covenant. I can make him mad to the point where he wants to give up on this covenant. And he went into a lot of detail about that part. My husband is so crazy. He's like, you're never leaving me. Like, I don't care what happens. Like, I'm bringing you home and we're talking about it. We together. Ain't nothing breaking this covenant, right? Okay, so that was his point. But he was saying, though, that even if we fail each other in the covenant, we made this before God. As I was, meditating on all this, God brought me to Colossians, and when I was like on my faith journey of moving east from California, I didn't know where God was going to place me. I thought I was going to live in Jersey. I ended up in upstate New York, but I just took my time on a road trip living in my car throughout the journey, and I spent quite a bit of time in North Carolina visiting mad churches. And I can't remember off the top of my head. I have like journals and journals and notebooks of all the churches I visited, but there was this one church in North Carolina, and they had a sermon on Colossians 1 while I was there, and it completely rocked my faith. Like, I stayed up in my car, and I parked in a Walmart parking lot, and I parked under the light so I could read my Bible, like the light in the parking lot, so I could read my Bible, and I just stayed up in Colossians like all night. I read the entire book, so I was just like, whoa. Like, it rocked my faith, and I feel like it's rocking my conception of marriage as well. So Colossians 1, I'm going to start in verse 15. It says, he is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. This is Jesus. Verse 16, for by him all things were created, in heaven and earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And lastly, verse 18, it says, and he is the head of the body, the church. He's the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in everything he might be preeminent. I feel like we could literally go into that for years and years and years, because I have been thinking about this for years and years and years. I've been like seriously sitting with this for like 4 years now. No cap. But my point is, if everything was created by him, if your covenant, if your kingdom marriage that you're believing God for was created by him, don't forget that it was created for him and it will be given back to him. Nowhere in there is it prioritizing you or the man. He's the head of the body, the church. I hope this is clicking. It's like the marriage is not for you. It's not about you. It's not about your husband. Honey, it's for Jesus. Like it was created by him. I hope this is making sense, like how deep this is. Like, I didn't marry my husband because I wanted to. He didn't marry me because he wanted to. Yeah, we did have free will and we did ultimately choose it, but like God, when he created us in our mother's wombs, he had this covenant in mind. It was created by him. And why? Because this covenant will now bear fruit unto him. That's for him. And ultimately, right, like we are equal partners in this covenant, right, unto God, but it is going to be returned back to him. Like, we have to die to our flesh every single day for him in order to even have this covenant. And I feel like if you're desiring to be a wife, like just keeping this in mind, chewing on what I'm saying, right? Because I laugh, like a lot of my sisters that are like looking to me for like, what is it? Like, what is it? Now you a wife, what is it, right? The whole point, like there's that trend going around, like I almost forgot this is the whole point. Okay, you want to ask me what's the whole point of being married that I've learned so far? Like within the first year, we're not even done with our first year, but it's okay. It is being content and satisfied before you get married. It's being content and satisfied even if God says no. It's being content, and God forbid, but it's being content and satisfied even if God takes your husband away. That's the whole point. If you're desiring to be a wife, I would strongly encourage you to spend time learning how to be content and to be satisfied outside of him, because he is just a cherry on top. And my best friend, who has been married for a very long time, like I think over 10 years now, has been telling me this while she was walking with me in my single season. For years, idolizing marriage, like she would just show me like, girl, my husband is just a cherry on top of the fullness of my life with Jesus. And I just was like, what do you mean? Like, I did not get it. But it's like God is finally, by his grace, allowing me to understand. And I thank her for pouring oil and like planting seeds in me for me to like finally start to get it. But there were times in me and my husband's courtship, and I talked about it a lot on the channel, like it was so difficult and so ghetto because the wages of sin are death, that like I called off our marriage. I called off our wedding before we got married. And that was one thing. Another thing was we were already engaged. God took him away from me for a season. For a season, God took him out of my life. We didn't break up. I'm not going to get into his testimony, but there was a reason, okay? God bless. And God separated us. Not in terms of breaking up, but like we couldn't be around each other, and God had to process us both individually. And he had to show me, like, because I always had this wondering in the back of my head that I never really articulated to anyone, but God heard that, like he saw that, and he knew, like deep down I always wondered, like, have I been relying on my boyfriend, fiance, husband, you know, as a crutch in my adult life, and like what would it be like without him? Like before I got married, like I had that kind of like wondering in the back of my mind, and God took us both by surprise and separated us for a period during our courtship where I had only God, and it was so hard. And I thank God for my church and my pastors who I'm talking about held me up during that time, like spiritually, emotionally, physically, emotionally, mentally, financially, held this girl up. Love my church so much. But at the end of the day, the only one there with you when you lay your head down at night and when you wake up in the morning is God. And so he taught me like how to be how to let him be enough. Because going back a little further, before calling off the marriage, and God coming in and saying, nope, unto me, for me, by me, through me, to me. Before, going back even further, before the separation, and God saying, nope, for me, by me, through me, to me. Hey, you are mine. Your life is mine. I am yours, and you gonna do what I say. If you're submitted to me and you are my sheep, right? But going back even further, before I met my husband, I was single for like 2 years. And in that time, God worked on me in such a miraculous way. And my single season was not perfect. I slipped up a couple times. But I just had a couple things I still needed to get delivered from. So I was better than I was before, but I wasn't where I am now. And, I'm still not where I'm going. But during that time, I could have sworn I was fully content. And in a lot of ways, I was. Like, I wasn't thirsty. Like, I wasn't up under like every other dude. I wasn't like looking for, you know what I mean, anything. Like, I spent all of my time with Jesus and it was awesome and I loved it. But God knows the heart. And so even though that was my fruit of the time and that's as deep as I was mature enough to go and I thought I was good, when the opportunity came, I backslid. And that's because that was in my heart. And God had to allow that to come out so I could be aware and so he could heal it. But in that time, I'm saying this to say, in that singleness time of, before I met my husband and in that period of separation, here are some like foundational elements that I would say if you're desiring to be a wife, like begin to think about this and get this on lock between you and God. I'm not saying do what I did. I'm just saying like figure out who you are with God, because I had to really be so for real. Be so for real with God and be like, this is what it is and this is what it ain't, before he can honestly, in my opinion, add your kingdom partner. We're gonna get more into it. One thing that was really big for me was the money situation, like finances in a marriage. You're desiring to be a wife and people will give all types of advice about finances. That's good. I mean, in my opinion, I think you should have like, if possible, find like a Christian financial coach if you want to go that traditional way of like, how do you manage money as a married couple? Like, there's a lot on that, and I would just suggest going in that direction, like kingdom principles with a financial background, and learn from them. But here's what I'm talking about. While you're single, figuring out who, like, deep down, be honest with yourself. You don't have to say it out loud to anybody if it's too hard. Who's your provider? What are your beliefs around money and wealth and provision? This is something I've been like, it's just a big theme of my faith. Ever since I got saved at like 14, 15, I was struggling with so much financial insecurity in my childhood and poverty and just a hot mess. And God encountered me. He showed me Matthew 6:26. If he provides for the birds of the air, how much more? So he's been showing me that, right? And I had to learn, like, that's one thing as a kid, but as a grown woman, like, that starts to get harder to really believe. And so I just had to always remind myself. But while I was in a relationship with a boyfriend who was not my husband, but you could not tell me that at the time, for 10 years, like through my young adult, I definitely stayed in that relationship because of financial stability for a certain period of time. Like, yes, I loved him. Yes, I wanted him to be my husband. But it's like, even after I knew it wasn't right and I knew it wasn't of God, I didn't want to leave because I was scared of financial insecurity. And you might be looking at me like, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can judge me. But you know how many women have spoken to me and proudly said something along the lines of, I want a husband so that he can work and I can stay home with the kids and take care of the house? Am I saying there's something wrong with wanting to be a stay-at-home wife? Heck no, girlfriend. Heck no. But my point is, like, your future husband is not a paycheck. And before like I met my husband, I started to pray to God, for a husband. Like, I just felt like it was like, he put that desire in my spirit. That's why I'm like, I'm not downplaying like anyone that desires to be a wife. Like, I get it, because he started to deeply put the desire in my spirit, and I began to deeply pray, and I started to deeply see results, right? So if he's putting the desire in your spirit, then hey, like, it might be your time to really lock in and get yourself together and pray and wait, right? And see what he'll do. So in that time period where like I'm, getting settled up here upstate, and I'm single and I'm praying for my husband, at one of my stipulations, there's like so many different things. Like, one was, I told God I don't care anything about his finances. Like, anyone could pray for a baller. And it's so, I'm laughing, but it's actually like one of my biggest icks about this generation. Like, how, can I say this? Like, God tricking is just so like normal. Like, and everyone just want to look at a man as a price tag, and like how many figures he got determines if you want to let him take you on a date, and just all this like foolishness. Like, I really don't like it. I never liked it, but then I realized how that was part of me, because I didn't want to break up with my ex because of, I was scared of like financial provision. Hot mess. God had to really work that out of me. So he had been delivering me from this mindset, right? And that's just so deeply ingrained in our culture, in the music, in the TV, in the streets, like craziness. So by the time I'm praying for my husband in like 2021, I'm like, God, I don't care about his finances. You take care of me, because he had been showing me since I broke up with my ex, and since I moved, and lived in my car, and I just never missed a meal. I was just always straight. Like, he took care of me. I was like, yeah, God, you're my provider, so I don't care what this man's finances look like. Like, I'm praying for my husband, and I'm like, okay, but finances withholding, like, do you on the finances? Like, that doesn't matter. And he sure did test that prayer, because by the time I met my husband, he was like, I would say like rebounding in his finances. Like, he hadn't bounced back up yet from going through a hard season, you know what I mean? And I had to like, I feel like that was a test from God. Like, are you really going to be okay with it? And I really was like, yeah, like, what's his heart like though? Like, I don't care that he's not offering to buy me a million things, which he did eventually, you know what I mean? But like that, that's not the point. That's not the point. And this is what I mean by like, marriage is so much deeper. Like, covenant is so much deeper than what you might think about marriage. And so if you are thinking about money, like, I'm just encouraging you to think about and discern with God, like, do you really trust him as your provider? Like, even if your husband, like, loses his job, if you do get a husband, you do get married, and he loses his job, like, are you still going to trust God then? Because that muscle is going to be built now while you're single. Like, you have to learn how to really trust God with your finances now, and like really actually, because like, God is our husband as his church. Like, do you really, like, if you have no food in the fridge, if you have no gas in the car, if you run out of feminine hygiene products, like, do you really trust God then? Because yeah, he can put a man in the flesh in the place of him to provide for your needs, and be generous with you when he's good and ready. But at the end of the day, that man still has to answer and submit to somebody, and that's the same God that's with you right now. Another thing is, I feel like, from just conversations that I've had, if this is not you, then, chew the meat, spit the bones. But what I've heard from a lot of women, like, that I've just been speaking with, not everybody, but a lot, is just that it's like, you have this idea in your mind, like, you're praying for marriage, but then you have this idea in your mind of, my husband has to be, here's my checklist, he has to be this, and this. And, then I'm going to have somebody to help pay these bills and take out this trash and put gas in my car and da. But I feel like it's just so dismissive, and that's playing in God's face, because it's like, it dismisses the fact that, like, how you're a craftsmanship, you're his handiwork, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, like, you are a royal priesthood, like, he just calls you precious, and he sees you as so beautiful, right? Do you know that that applies to men too? Like, do you know that outside of you praying for a husband and he's gonna do all these things for you, do you know that he is God's son? Do you know that he's a real person? And so you're marrying somebody, or you're praying to marry somebody, And yeah, you're probably gonna get all those things, and that's great, right? Like, because God is just like hecka good like that. But do you also realize that like you're coming into covenant with everything he's ever walked through? I'm not just talking about like soul tie, but like he's been through trauma. That has to matter to you now, because those triggers that he has, you can trigger him even if you're a saved woman of God. Okay? And like you have to be mindful of his emotional state and be a helpmate to his healing. His like, yeah, he can be all of these things. He can work out, he can be 6 foot, that like all this like frivolous stuff, like he can be that. That's not a problem that you like that. But also like he is his own person, and God gave him like this unique personality that it might be so different from yours that it might not always feel like this. It might be like a little bit like this sometimes, but you're gonna have to adjust and support and learn to love how God made him, even if it's like you didn't think to pray about that and put that on your list, because you're actually not that powerful anyway, and you're not in control. You ain't manifesting nothing. I just feel like nobody talks about these things, and so I don't know, like in desiring to be a wife, like these are the things that I just feel like it would be important to consider. It's like, are you really gonna love that man for who he is and not just what he can do for you? Yeah, y'all